Last week, I had an opportunity to stay at the Pendry Hotel in San Diego. And in this video, I'm gonna be giving you my unfiltered review, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything that you need to know before you make the decision whether to stay at the Pendry in San Diego. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Gould and I'm the hotel guy. Over the last 30 years, I have stayed in hundreds of hotels around the world, and I'm currently working on building my own portfolio of hotels that I own and operate. So without further ado, let's get into the Pendry. And for the room description and the pricing information, all of that can be found in the description box down below. One thing that I should note is that for this property, I actually booked it through booking.com, which I don't really like to do. I always like to book it through the main site, or usually I find if I book through a third-party site, I don't really get a great room, and they don't really treat you as nice because honestly, like, the hotels don't make as much money when you book to the third-party sites. And so typically I find my experience is a lot better when I don't book through like a booking.com or a hotels.com. But to be honest with you, the deal was so good on booking.com, I saved like $250 or something like that. So I think the original rate was like $550 on the Pendry's website, and then it was like almost $300 on booking.com. So it was a massive difference. And so that's why I decided to go for the booking.com price as opposed to going directly through the Pendry's website. So my first impressions of the hotel as I walked in for the very first time is, number one, very upscale, very boutique kind of feel. Like when you walk in there, it's like, wow, like I'm about to get like an experience. It's the little things. The first thing I noticed is that the front doorman opened the door for me. So they actually had someone there opening the door for every single guest as they came through, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but the other hotels that I stayed in San Diego that weekend, I didn't get that same experience. So even though it seems like a small thing, it really like elevated my experience as I walked in there for the first time, and it definitely elevated the impression that I got of the Pendry the very first time that I walked in. I should also note that I arrived to San Diego at 8 in the morning, and despite arriving so early in the day, they were very accommodating for me as I got there. The front desk immediately found me a room. They were like, yes, Mr. Gould, we'll find you something. Like, let me just look through here. And within 20 minutes or so, they had a room lined up for me upstairs, even though I got there like literally 8 in the morning and check-ins at 3. One of the very first things that I noticed as I walked into the hotel was just how spotless everything was. It was so neat. It was so orderly. It was so clean. Like, I can't ever recall walking into a hotel and feeling like, wow, this place is so spotless and clean and organized, and that being my very first stop. But for some reason, like, that's where my mind went when I walked into this hotel. So as a summary of the impressions that I got of the Pendry as I walked in for the very first time is, number one, very upscale boutique vibes. Number two, tons of class. And lastly, top level service. Now, when I say top level service, I mean top level service for the price, because of course, if we were staying at like $1,000 a night resort, I would expect better service, but for the price point, the service was exceptional. So as the doorman opened the door for me, the very first view that you get of the Pendry is this like very elegant fireplace, couches, everything, but the lobby is the very first thing that you see when you walk in. And you just get these like upscale boutique kind of vibes. I knew the second I walked in, like 2 seconds in, I was like, I'm gonna freaking love this place. So now let's talk about the room. The room itself was very nice and it was spacious. So there was definitely like lots of room to like move around, lots of room for suitcases when you need to like unpack and everything. So from a spaciousness standpoint, it was definitely like more space than I was expecting. And the features inside of the room also were very posh and upscale. So the vibe that I got as I walked in the hotel, that same vibe was maintained when you get to the room. Because sometimes, you know, the vibe of the lobby and everything is just, there's a mismatch there. Sometimes I found that the lobby almost like oversells the experience that you're about to get to the room. So like the lobby's super nice and the room's like very average or basic, but this room was very not average. One of the cool things about the Pendry, and I've been seeing this in more and more hotels, is you get this like see-through shower experience where from the bedroom, you can basically like see through into the shower. So definitely not somewhere you want to go there with anyone else except for like yourself or like a significant other. I think the first time I saw that was at the Standard in downtown LA, which I think that hotel's like no longer in existence. But when I saw that for the first time, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And since then I've seen it in, you know, about a half dozen hotels or so. And so I thought it was an interesting choice. I love it, but you know, definitely not like a family friendly kind of situation, you know? One of the things that really stood out to me about this hotel were the fixtures and like the attention to detail and some of the finer things, like the tile was really nice, and you know, some of the fixtures and the finishes in the bathroom were like very upscale. Just little details that I really took an appreciation to in the moment. And if you appreciate those kinds of things, if you appreciate like posh decor, if you appreciate upscale finishes, like you are definitely gonna love this place. So one of my guilty pleasures is like always kind of scoping out the mini bar just to see what's there. And more often than not, I have self-discipline, but not this time, because this time they had these like mini s'mores, like chocolate bars. And when I got to the room, I was pretty hungry. I hadn't eaten breakfast or anything. And so like I crushed an entire s'mores candy bar. So then I left the room to go explore the rest of the hotel, and I'm gonna go into all those details in a second. But then when I got back, there was another s'mores candy bar there waiting for me. So they do a really good job at the Pendry. One thing that I wanted to comment on was they have like the mini bar thing with the sensors on it. So it's very obvious to me, like the second something gets pulled from the mini bar with the sensors, like someone's like delivering a new one to the room. So good job, Pendry. You really know how to like #capitalism. All right, so the very first morning that I was there, I went to go grab my free drip coffee from the Provisional, which is one of the dining options that are on site. But they advertised free drip coffee, so I went down there, grabbed my free drip coffee. I'm a little salty because the manager at the Provisional told me to turn my camera off. He said that like filming wasn't allowed there somewhere, when I'm like, dude, it's 2023, like I can like, who cares that I have this like fancy Sony camera? I can do the same thing on my phone. You wouldn't say anything. But anyways, like whatever. I also had a croissant at the Provisional, and I gotta say, like that restaurant, the environment there at the Provisional, although I didn't get to eat anything other than like my drip coffee and a croissant, which was delicious, by the way, the ham and cheese croissant there. But I could tell that for being like a Thursday at like a random time of day, there were quite a few people there. So something tells me that that restaurant's actually very good. I didn't get to try anything aside from the croissant, but like if the croissant is indicative of like the experience that you'd get at the Provisional, like I would say it's probably worth trying the Provisional out and eating there if you're gonna spend a few days in San Diego. There is another bar on site at the Pendry called Fifth and Rose, and you actually get a free drink coupon like by staying there at the Pendry, but unfortunately I wasn't able to go there this time. Ironically, the last time I went to San Diego, I actually went to Fifth and Rose. So even though I didn't go this time, I have experienced Fifth and Rose before, and the vibe of that bar is very like hip. And so if you're like into that sort of thing, you're like, hey, like I like cool music at night and it's pretty dark in there and really good drinks, then I would recommend that you go. Now the Pendry does charge a resort fee, and in that resort fee you get like, you know, your free coffee, and then you get that free drink at the Fifth and Rose. But one of the other perks that you get for staying at the Pendry is something that I haven't really seen anywhere else before. That is, if you're a guest at the Pendry, they actually have a free Cadillac that you can just like take out for 4 hours at a time. So essentially they have a free rental car on site provided by Cadillac. You can just drive around town and not pay for. So I thought this was a really interesting thing that I like truly had like never seen before at another hotel. If you have, then you should definitely comment below and be like, yo, I've stayed at this place and they had this type of service, because I had never seen that before. So I'd be interested to see if there are other hotels that do this. But regardless, the value of that is actually quite high, because I actually had to go to a business lunch in North San Diego. And when I looked at the Uber ride, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna spend like $120 going there back and forth. And I tried getting the Cadillac. They had the Cadillac, so I could have taken it out, but unfortunately, I had lost my driver's license like 3 days beforehand. So all I had was my temporary driver's license, and they didn't accept that or my passport. They needed my real driver's license. So I was so mad. I was like, God, are you kidding me? But anyways, moral of the story is if you go there with a driver's license and the Cadillac is available, you can rent it out for free, not pay a penny, and save tons of money on Uber charge. So pretty cool feature that the Pendry has to offer there. And speaking of different amenities and features, the next day I got to go try out the gym and the pool and like that whole area. And so I would say that just in my overall experience with hotels, I would say that the Pendry is in the upper echelon of gym experiences when it comes to staying at hotels. They had a very large facility. They had an above average selection of free weights. They also had an above average selection of like cardio equipment as well. So I would highly recommend that if you are a gym enthusiast, you probably don't need to like go anywhere else if you're just trying to get in a basic workout. Now, if you're a CrossFit enthusiast like myself, there is a gym pretty close by. It's called Bear Republic, and I would highly recommend that you go there. I go go to Bear Republic like every time I go to San Diego. It's an amazing gym. It's like right in the heart of downtown. So if you're a CrossFit enthusiast, or you are not a CrossFit enthusiast, but like you definitely want a better selection of like barbells, or you want to be able to do things like weightlifting and things like that, then go check out Bear Republic. It's like $20 to drop in, and it's definitely like one of my favorite gyms of all time. Now the pool is not just like your average hotel pool. You can definitely tell when you go to the pool that this is one of the it spots in downtown San Diego. It definitely has this like very miniature, like Vegas pool party kind of feel to it. When you go there, you're like, wow, there's a lot of cabanas and there's a couple bars up there too. So it definitely gives those vibes off. Now, the day that I went, there was no event, there was no DJ there. So it was like really chill. But if you like to party and that's definitely like your vibe or your scene, then I would highly recommend that you go check that place out, because I could tell that it probably gets pretty lit there in the summer months. Now, if you enjoy going to the spa or like things of that nature, there is a spa on site at the Pendry. I personally am not a huge fan of that stuff, so I normally don't check those things out. But if the experience of the spa at the Pendry is anything like the overall experience of the hotel itself, then I got to imagine that like the spa experience there is pretty darn good. So if you're looking to make your stay like more of like a resort kind of feel where you just kind of stay at the hotel, it's totally possible. You can eat at the Provisional, grab drinks at 5th and Rose. You can go to the spa, get pampered and everything, and basically stay there the entire time. So there's no real reason to leave. And that's a pretty cool thing, especially for being in like the heart of like a downtown city. So if that's kind of your vibe and you'd like to do that, at least for a day, like maybe just like hang out in the hotel and make it more of like a staycation inside the hotel for one entire day, you can absolutely do that there and enjoy everything that the hotel has to offer. All right, so now let's talk about the location of the Pendry. Being that it's in downtown San Diego, you really can't, if you are looking to stay in downtown San Diego, like judge it compared to any other of the hotels in downtown San Diego, because it's pretty much all like the same kind of like experience. So if you're staying in downtown San Diego, I would say that this doesn't necessarily have a competitive advantage in terms of location. Now, there is something that you should know, is that the homeless situation in San Diego has kind of gotten a little wonky over the years. And so it's like not always the most pleasant experience just kind of like walking around downtown San Diego in general. But that being said, the immediate vicinity around the Pendry is actually quite nice. And so if you're looking for a place where you can avoid most of that hoopla, then like you're actually probably pretty well off staying at the Pendry, because the surrounding areas around the Pendry, like a block to each side is pretty good. But then after you go venturing like more than like a block or two away from the Pendry in any which direction, you're gonna run into some things that you probably don't want to see. All right, so now let's talk about the staff. And I already mentioned this kind of earlier in the video, but the staff was exceptional. I mean, from the very beginning of my experience all the way till the end, I had nothing but positive things to say about the staff. I still remember the bellman that helped me out my very first day there. The next day, as I was walking through the lobby, he was like, "Hello, Mr. Gould," you know, just like and I was like, wow, like it's been a while since I've stayed at a hotel where the level of detail and the attention to detail like that was at that level. And I know how difficult it must be for that guy to like remember everyone's names. I don't know how he does it. I don't know if that's just a him thing or if the Pendry's coaching them and teaching them how to do that. But regardless, like it really elevated my perception of the staff in general, just like that experience with that one individual bellman. But aside from just that bellman, everyone on staff was exceptionally friendly, and I could not have asked for a better like staff experience. So the way I rate hotels is on a scale of 1 to 7. Not 1 to 10, not 1 to 5, but 1 to 7. A 7 being the best hotel I've ever stayed at in my life. A 6 being one of the better hotels that I've stayed at. A 5 being it's a great hotel, but it was missing certain things. A 4 being it was a very average stay. A 3, 2, and 1 being below average experiences. And the 3 categories I like to rate on are the room itself, the amenities, and the overall experience. So the room itself was a 5.5 out of 7. I've stayed in better rooms before. I thought a lot of the attention to detail and the features and everything were like very nice and very upscale. And I thought really hard about giving it a 6 or a 6.5, but it was way above average, but it was not like exceptional highest tier quality. So I would give the room itself a 5.5 out of 7. The amenities at the Pendry, I would give a solid 6 out of 7. I've stayed at a lot of hotels, and I would say that the Pendrys are on the top echelon of amenities that I've seen at hotels in recent memory. From the wide array of equipment that the gym had to offer, to the upscale pool experience, to multiple bars and restaurants within the Pendry itself or right next door to the Pendry. Like it really had everything that you needed to make it a complete stay. And it wasn't just like checking the box either. It wasn't just like, oh, we have a gym. No, we have a really awesome gym. It wasn't just like checking the pool box. Like, yeah, we have a pool. No, it was a sick pool. So overall, I would give it a 6 out of 7 on the amenities. And then finally, the staff and overall experience. So the overall staff and experience of the hotel, I would actually give a 6.5 out of 7. This was one of the better experiences that I've had in a very long time. The cleanliness of the hotel, everything was so spotless. Like there was very little for me to complain about. And so I couldn't not give it a 6.5. I was close to giving it a 7, but until I stay at every hotel, I won't be able to give anything a 7. So I think a 6.5, which means the overall score for the Pendry is a solid 6 out of 7. It's a great hotel. It really is. And in terms of comparing it to other hotels that I've stayed at in the past, I would definitely say it was in the top echelons of hotels that I've stayed at. So if you're looking for an awesome place to stay in San Diego, I would highly recommend the Pendry. Now, if you've made it this far in the video and you're not yet subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and give me a thumbs up while you're at it to get notified every single time we post a new review just like this one. That's it for this review. I hope you found it useful. You can leave all your comments in the comments down below. This is Danny Gould. I'm the Hotel Guy, and I'll catch all of you in the next video.